Borough's unbeaten start to the season continues as they rescue a point from Southampton. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and another episode of the Project Borough review show, where today we're looking back at Borough's 1-1 draw today down on the south coast against Southampton. And it was, in the end, I think, overall, probably especially in the first half, Borough's worst performance of the season. But as this team and this club and this manager and this squad continues to do, they're able to make the changes, they're able to tweak things, they're able to bounce back and find a way to come away from the game with something. And that was absolutely huge for me in this game. Let's not forget, and Edwards stressed this massively after the game, and I completely agree with what he said. Even though they've had a bad start, this Southampton team is still littered with quality, and they're still trying to figure their best team out. They're trying to figure things out across the board pretty much. And I do say, and as I said in the preview, and I stand by it, a point here I still think we will look back on as a very, very good point sometime down the line later on in the season. And I actually thought Southampton had improved here. I thought they were definitely better. They still are nowhere near their absolute best, and we were absolutely miles off our best, especially in the first half. But to come from behind, get a point, improve, utilise the squad, utilise the bench, see them proactive changes once again, and come away from St Mary's with a point. Honestly, I think it's going to be a great result for us in the long term. And as I say, it just keeps the unbeaten start going. It keeps the momentum ticking over. You know, I was more worried, not about this game, but about the games coming up. If Borough had lost today and then, you know, we don't beat Stoke, suddenly things get a bit twitchy and things can derail quite easily when you've got a quick 3-game week coming up. And I just thought, get something from St Mary's, whatever it is, take something away from the game. You remain unbeaten and you carry it in to the midweek game at home to Stoke. And that is exactly what we did. And it keeps us top of the championship. We would have been anyway, but we're still 4 points clear, which is huge. I think Coventry were the only other side in the top 6 to win this weekend. I think maybe only them and Charlton were the only two teams in the whole top half to win. So if there was ever a game or a weekend to drop points, it was here. But again, I think when you're in the championship and you're fighting hard, getting a point away at any place, I think is a good point. You draw away, you win at home. I think it's a good cocktail for success, hopefully. And Southampton, away win, a team in the Premier League last season. Good result, I would say, in the end, especially when you've not played your best. The lineup then, it was the rumoured lineup that I'd heard yesterday. I did hear that Nipan had been ill throughout the week, therefore was going to be swapped out for Morgan Whittaker. The rest of the team remained unchanged. George Edmondson thankfully did make the game. However, once again, Rob Edwards went with Strelets up front as the 9, with Tommy Conway as the 10. And I think this today was probably the biggest example so far that that's just not working. I don't think that front three is working as a trio, as a duo. I just don't think Strelets is working up front with Conway in behind him. And of course, we did bring Morgan Whittaker in for Nipan after a very good performance from Nipan last week. It was unfortunate that he dropped out. It must have been due to illness, as I was told. So, yeah, I still think that's to be worked out. But Borough went with a mostly unchanged side other than that. And to be fair, the first half, it was a bit disappointing from both sides, I would say. You could see that Southampton were still far from in full flow. You know, they were having, nice, neat moments with the ball. They dominated the ball for the most part, but they didn't create anything of note from their own doing. I think a common theme in the first half was Southampton just kept getting chances because of Borough being sloppy in possession. And that was the story of the first half. Borough were very, very poor in the first half, on the ball especially. I still think we defended relatively well, but on the ball we were really poor. We gave the ball away countless times in the first half, and every time we did, it was allowing Southampton an opening, an opportunity, and it did feel like a full floor Southampton, probably would have took one or two of them chances and made us pay. Thankfully, in the first half, they didn't, but things just weren't clicking for Borough in the first half. You know, we were trying to play out from the back a lot, which I was surprised by. You know, when I looked at Southampton and listening to Southampton fans and obviously what Hull did to them last week, it very much seems like if you want to hurt this Southampton team, you've got to be direct. You've got to play the ball vertically up the pitch, get it in behind, get it out wide, get it into the channels. And I'm really surprised we didn't do that enough in the first half. We did it on 3 occasions, and we got joy from it every single time, whether it was getting us up the pitch, creating a half chance, winning us a free kick. That was definitely the way to go, and I was very, very surprised Borough didn't do that enough in the first half because we kept trying to play through them. We kept trying to play out from the back, and I felt like we were just playing into Southampton's hands in the first half because they were so compact. They were boxing out the middle of the pitch. Allowed no space whatsoever for Borough to play through the thirds. They did a really good job on Hackney and Morris in the first half. I think Hackney and Morris were poor today, by the way. They didn't have a great game whatsoever. Neither of them did, but I don't think it was just because they weren't up to it. I think it was the way Southampton set up. They deliberately congested the middle of the pitch. They pushed their line up very, very high, so the middle of the pitch was just flooded with Southampton players, and I was really surprised Borough kept playing into that as opposed to whipping the ball around down the channel, getting the 10s running onto it, or just playing it straight up to David Strelitz, who can prove to be a good focal point to hold the ball up at times. But no, we kept playing into Southampton's hands, and it limited us of opportunities. You know, we had a good chance from a free kick. Matt Targett hit the post first half, was a really good effort. Tommy Conway had a sort of half chance when played through by David Strelitz in the first half, but we didn't really create anything of note. The best chances definitely came from a Southampton point of view. The biggest, ironically, fell to Finn Azaz, who I thought was a banker to score against us today, and he probably should have as well. The ball fell to him in the Borough box, and he, for some reason, leant back, side-footed it over the bar. You know, it was a really poor finish from him. I felt like it was an absolute dead-ringer goal at the time. Very, very surprised he missed it. And we got away with one there. And I think is it Kwashi? The centre-back had a really good header first half as well that he headed into the ground that went over the bar. But again, you know, it wasn't that Southampton had us pinned or had us under serious pressure. A lot of the chances they got came from us giving the ball away. And we didn't really create all that much either. So first half was not a great half of football for either side, really. But you still felt like a moment of quality was coming. And to be fair to Borough, I actually thought we started the second half pretty good. I was surprised there weren't any changes, I'll be honest, because as I say, the front three of Whittaker, Strelitz and Conway was not working. So I was expecting a change at half-time. There wasn't one. But I actually thought we came out, actually did pretty well. I thought we were starting to get a foothold in the game. We were starting to get into the ascendancy. We were starting to pass the ball around a little bit quicker. Tempo was much better in the second half. And then you could say, at least for the 5 to 10 minutes prior, Southampton actually scored from against the run of play. And it was a great finish by Adam Armstrong, Tom Fellows, who was a nightmare down the right-hand side. By the way, really surprised from a Southampton point of view that he took off Tom Fellows. I was really, really surprised to see that he did that. 71 minutes he took Tom Fellows off. I thought he was probably their best player. Interesting. But he caused chaos down the right-hand side. I can't recall if this move as well came from Borough losing the ball in midfield. But either way, cross came in, flicked on by Alfie Jones. A brilliant left-footed volley from Adam Armstrong. Great technique, great finish into the bottom corner. And I wouldn't say it had been coming. I'll be honest. I thought first half, yeah, if we kept gifting Southampton chances, they probably would take one at some point. But second half, I actually thought we started off pretty well. And it was a real shame to see that they scored from that moment. But it was a very, very top-class moment of quality from Adam Armstrong. And then you're wondering where Borough are going to get back into the game. Because as I say, up until this point, we'd not created anything. We'd looked disjointed up front. I don't think we'd played into Southampton's weaknesses. I think we played into their strengths. We weren't getting the ball out wide enough. We weren't getting it in behind enough. And the front three just weren't clicking. Everything was in front of Southampton up until that point. But then, still a little bit late. We were due to make changes anyway, I think, even before they scored. And Rob Edwards said we were going to go to a 4 at the back even after, or even before they scored. So he was looking to not only change personnel, but change the system as well, which is great to see. as we've said many times, a manager be proactive, a manager willing to use his bench, change the shape, and that's exactly what he did. And it's also very good to see Borough have as many options as we did who came on the bench or came off the bench and actually made a difference in that second half. You know, he brought on just after the hours for Nipan. He came on. Alan Brown came on. We also brought on Delano Bergzorg, Kalisen and Sonja Hansen. Literally 10 minutes later, we changed the shape to a back four, and it gave us a lot more pace, I would say, up front, a lot more dynamism. Hansen and Sen, I thought, made a great impact in them forward areas, and as I say, it helped us, just gave us an extra body in midfield. We had Hackney, we had Nipan, we had Brown, and I thought that really, really helped. And then came a moment of quality, a real moment of quality, and what a shock. It came from Borough getting down the sides, getting the ball out wide, and playing it into one of the channels. And we almost actually had a bit of joy from this a little bit earlier. It was Luke Ayling again, by the way, and we'll get on to Luke Ayling. He was outstanding. He moved across to right back, a position we've not seen him in for a long time. Played an unbelievable ball down the side to David Strelets, who was in behind. It was maybe just half a yard in front of Strelets. His touch wasn't great, but I think the ball was just a little bit too in front of him. But what a ball it almost was by Luke Ayling. We saw that a couple of minutes earlier, and the potential of that move. And then again, we got down the sides. He played a brilliant ball in behind to Kalisen, something I was willing us to do all game. Get down the sides, get in behind Southampton. It was there for us the whole game. And then Kalisen takes a touch, and how he scored from that angle, I'll never know. I mean, I didn't ever for a second expect it to go in. It took a nick off former Borough lad Nathan Wood, so thank you to Woody for that. But he hits it into the ground, and I think that's really good from Kalisen, because firstly the run's great, the ball is outstanding, but I think hitting it into the ground always ensures that it could take a nick, it could become awkward. If he puts his foot through it or gets under it, it's probably going to go wide or over the bar. Hitting it into the ground, I think, gives it the best possible chance. It does take a nick. I don't know what McCarthy's doing, by the way. It completely gazumps him. He doesn't know where the ball is, and it nestles in to the top corner. And what an impact from Kalisen. A brilliant finish, a great ball, and also it is worth noting a good flick on earlier in the move by Sferi Nipan to actually get the move going, essentially from midfield. So you've got a substitute making an impact early on. You've got a change in system, getting Luke Ayling out wide, playing that ball in, and then you've got a substitute coming on and scoring. Again, Edwards, brilliant, recognising the need to make changes, the proactivity to make the changes, changing the system. They don't wait around, this coaching team. They make it, they get it done, and we see it once again prove to be an impact off the bench, and it gets us a point in the end. And then for the final 12 minutes, honestly, the game was anyone's. You know, there was just as much of a chance that Southampton maybe went up the other end and scored. Borough could have nicked it as well. Again, though, I will say, I wouldn't say Southampton created anything of their own doing. You know, it all came from Borough's errors, and thankfully, second half, we were much better on the ball, created far less mistakes, which led to Southampton having far less chances, and we did grow into it eventually, and then the changes just gave us that extra little nudge to get that moment of quality that got us out of there with a point. And as I say, I'm buzzing with the point. I said in the preview, I had a feeling it would be a draw. I had a feeling it'd be 1-1. I didn't want to sleep on this Southampton team. I didn't want to sleep on how good they can be. I still think, though, they weren't fantastic. And I do think a lot of the joy they had came from us giving it to them in that first half. So, yeah, maybe there still is a tiny degree where you can look at it and say, if Borough were better in that first half, maybe we could have come away with all three. But I'm not going to be fussy, because I do think in 20, 30 games' time, there'll be a lot of teams looking back, and getting a point from St Mary's, I think, will be very, very difficult. So for Borough to do that, to come from behind, to show the character once again, keep the unbeaten run going into the next game, I think it's absolutely key. When you don't play well, the best teams, when they don't play well, they still find a way of getting something, and that's exactly what we did. As for the stats, I mean, you'll see there wasn't much in the game. I think they had more opportunities, more shots, most definitely. Only 2 of them on target. However, Borough had the 1 on target, which ended up being the goal, which is a little bit fortunate. XG, not great today, but I don't think it was ever going to be a game where we were going to create a lot against Southampton. Edwards did stress after the game, let's not forget, even though we see where they are in the league, how good this team is, how good they can be, and how good they maybe will be when they work stuff out. So I still think, again, Borough to get anything is huge. So again, I would like us to create more, and I'll go back to the point when we take a look at the lineup now. I think the one big puzzle that Edwards has got to solve is definitely our front three. I think the rest of the team's fine. I think the back four, the back five, whichever way he chooses to go, I think we look good switching to either. I think the wing backs, Britton and Targett, set there, and I think we've shown even in the back three, if we lose Fry, Edmondson can come in and do a job. Malanda will come in, of course. Hopefully Dale Fry will come back. Hopefully Lenahan's not away for too long. I think regardless, they just look so well drilled at the back. We look solid regardless of personnel, and you've got they're still the best midfield two in the league, albeit they didn't have a great game today. It's all for me around what we do with that front three and how we unlock the best combination, because I still think we're away from finding that as yet. But talking about individuals, not much to say really about Solbren. He did make a really good catch first half that led to us getting a really good counter-attacking move that could have resulted in something. In the end, it didn't. But he didn't have much to do, which again is I think a good compliment to Borough's defence. He couldn't have done much about their goal. As for the back three, I think there's two absolute standouts. The first one is George Edmondson. I think considering he's not played much football since February, I think he's come in the last two and done exceptionally well. I think maybe sitting him at the heart of a back three and just asking him to sort of head it and kick it, I think is a perfect role for him. And he did really, really well here, recovering from that black eye, put in a very good performance. Luke Ayling was man of the match by a mile, and I think has been player of the season. He has been a revelation for us this season. He's been fantastic. He's found the form that I think we saw him come to the club with when he initially joined on loan a season or so ago. But I think everything Ayling's done so far this season has been outstanding. Defensively today, he was brilliant. There was a period second half where I think Armstrong got played in behind by a great ball by Finn Azaz, and Ayling was alive to it. He tracked him, made a great challenge. Could have been a goal from Adam Armstrong. Equally, Edmondson made a great challenge second half when Armstrong cut on it was right. If he gets by Edmondson, he's got a shot on goal, probably a goal. Great challenge. Them two were just top draw today, and Ayling, of course, then pops up with a fantastic assist and could have had another one. His ball for Strelets, as I say, was absolutely brilliant. Britton and Targett weren't in the game as much today. I think, again, something I would have liked us to have done more was utilise the wing-backs. I think they could have gave us that width, got us up the pitch, got us in behind. We didn't utilise them as well as I would have liked us to today. And I think it's safe to say Hackney and Morris probably had their worst game I think I've seen either of them have for a long time. They've happened at the same time, to be honest with you. I think first half especially, both of them dwelling on the ball way too long, misplaced passes, just being dispossessed too often. I think it improved second half. Of course, Morris was brought off. Hackney was better second half, but them two just weren't at it today. And I don't think it helped that Southampton literally congested the middle of the park, but I kept trying to play through them. It was never going to work for me, and I think it certainly didn't help Hackney and Morris, but that was clearly Southampton's aim. Their goal before the game was to put as much pressure on Hackney and Morris and try and stop them from playing, block out the middle of the pitch, and hopefully that would nullify Borough, and it kind of did, to be fair. So, yeah, that's what happens when them two don't have a good game. And then the front three, as I say, still trying to find the right combination. Morgan Whittaker, again, didn't impact the game at all, really. Was fairly ineffective from an offensive point of view. I wouldn't say, though, it's worth just piling on him, because I think the whole attacking line was pretty ineffective today. Tommy Conway equally didn't do all that much in the 10 role, and David Strelets up front didn't get into the game much either. I stand by that. I think Strelets needs to be dropped deeper, and you need to have Conway as the out-and-out 9. I really do think that's the way to go. I think we've seen now enough games where Strelets has played up front, and I think Edwards is trying to maybe get Strelets and Conway into the same team, maybe struggling to do that right now. I think it's obvious. You just swap them round, and then you decide who the best option is alongside them, and I still think it is Sferi Nipan. Again, I think he was ill today, so that's why he didn't start. So I would like to see Nipan and Strelets in behind Tommy Conway, and we'll see how that goes. But we've got great options, and it is worth saying all the players who come on made an impact. Alan Brown, again, brilliant when he come on in midfield. A very, very solid cameo. Bergzog did well as well, coming off the bench. Almost forgot about him, to be honest with you. And of course, You've got Kalisen coming on, getting another great goal like he did last week. And Sanjay Hansen, I thought, was very good. They just offered us a little bit of pace, agility, trickery up front. It just made that front three feel a bit more dynamic, had more pace to it, caused them more options. So it's great to have players off the bench who can do that, and I think they certainly made the impact you would like. And it gives Edwards a headache. You know, who is the best front three? Sen scored twice now. Does he warrant a start? Do you keep bringing him off the bench? What do you do to get the best out of Strelets and Conway, who I just don't think are working together at the moment? And then, of course, surely Nipan's the alternative on the other side. We'll have to wait and see what happens on Tuesday. So, yeah, lots of positives, lots of great individual performances in there, but a lot as well who weren't quite up to it today, and definitely a conundrum for Edwards to figure out up top. But we'll finish on the league table because it still remains to be great viewing for Borough. We were going to be top anyway after today, but I think, again, things have went pretty well for us. You know, if there was ever a day to drop points, you're probably looking at today being the day. You go all the way down to Ipswich in 12th, really, and you look at it, only Charlton and Coventry actually won today, so no damage done for Borough, really. You know, we're still 4 points clear at the top. We've come away with a fighting point. As I say, I stress once again, just keeping that unbeaten run going for as long as possible. It just keeps the momentum ticking over, and it allows us to go into Stoke now and hopefully go into it feeling positive. And if you can beat Stoke, you open up a 7-point gap on the team who are currently third. It's a huge opportunity for us, and again, we will still be top regardless of what happens at Stoke or against Stoke, you know, on Tuesday evening. So yeah, this point just helps us tick along, and it keeps us in a very, very strong position, which is absolutely awesome. And we will move on, of course, to Stoke City midweek. Now, it is worth noting, I am not here from, well, Tuesday onwards, essentially. I'm off on holiday on Wednesday, and pretty much have a busy week prepping to go away on holiday Monday, Tuesday. So there might be room for a potential Project Borough preview against Stoke. I think it's going to be very, very difficult, though, to squeeze in a review. I have got time to go to the game on Tuesday night, but I'm busy all day Tuesday. Last day of work's Monday. They're going to be 2 very busy days. Literally, the last thing I'll be doing on Teesside on Tuesday night is seeing the Borough game. Pretty much heading off on holiday on Wednesday morning. So I'm unsure whether to still preview the Stoke game if I'm not able to then review it. So what I will say is there's probably going to be maybe a preview for Stoke at the very least. I can't see me having time to review the game, unfortunately. And then I'm not here at all for the Pompey game. So what I will say, guys, is maybe expect a preview. I'll see. I'm not too sure if it's worth previewing a game that I will see, but I won't be able to review. So yeah, let me know in the comments if that's still something you want to see, but I do think it will be too tight, unfortunately, to review the Stoke game midweek, and then I'm off. So yeah, we'll see, guys, what will happen between now and Stoke City. If I don't review the game, fingers crossed we can just keep a positive result going, keep the momentum going, and of course we can, hopefully go into the Pompey game at the weekend off the back of another good result and guarantee maybe top of the league going into the second international break, which would be absolutely awesome. But I will say, if there isn't any more content between now and me going on holiday, then I guess I'll be back during the international break in 2 and a bit weeks' time. We'll probably be back to review this block of games along with Chris. He'll join me at some point between the international break to review this block of games that we've had throughout September and, of course, the start of October. And I guess if I'm not back for a Stoke preview, we will absolutely be back for a preview of, I think, is it Ipswich at home? After the break, it is Ipswich at home. So if we don't cover Stoke, we definitely won't be covering Pompey. We'll be back definitely for a preview of the Ipswich home game when we're back from the international break, and there will be a podcast with Chris in that time as well. However, I still might be uploading content even while I'm on holiday. I still might drop some stuff on TikTok, so if you still want to see if I drop anything on there, maybe it'll be a review of the Stoke game. Probably will be, to be fair. I probably will definitely be reviewing the Stoke game over on my TikTok. So if you want to still see my thoughts on that game, TikTok's the best place to find it. And I still might record something on the Pompey game while I'm away as well. So if you still want to keep up with a different type of content from me, go and follow my TikTok page. Linktree is in the description, as well as my X account, where again I'll still be posting on there even when I'm on holiday as well. So if the YouTube content does stop for a while, that's definitely where you're going to find me. And I will also finish with a shout out, because there still will be daily content dropping on my gaming channel, which will also be linked in the description. Got a nice FC26 career mode going with Borough at the moment, and I've already recorded enough content to pretty much last throughout the international break. So if you're starved of YouTube content over here, there's still plenty of YouTube content from me, and it's still Borough content on my gaming channel with FC26. But until then, guys, thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe for much more, and do let me know your thoughts in the comments. And of course, you can listen to this on your chosen podcast provider via the link tree. It's all happening in the link tree. Just go to the link tree description below. Everything is there that you could ever want. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. I might see you early next week. If not, I'll be back over here on the YouTube channel in a few weeks' time, where hopefully Borough will head into the international break still top of the tree. But until then, guys, do take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.